100% of healthcare providers are going to be targeted by cyber criminals. Not maybe. It's not if, it's a question of when.
This is when.
So,
it's when.
Yeah, I would definitely look into that. Ask your IT resource. And they're going to say, most likely, I got you covered. Ask for proof. There's too much at risk to make that assumption. And as scientists, which all dental professionals are scientists, almost every decision they make is data-driven, right? That's what scientists do, except for when it comes to something like this. They make a decision based on feelings, right? Don't do that.
Yeah.
If someone tells you you're covered, ask for specifics, right?
AI isn't just changing dentistry, it's completely redefining it. Tune into Bite-Size Podcast, the Dental AI and Tech Podcast, and stay ahead of the curve.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Bite-Size Podcast. And I've brought on a kind of a cybersecurity guru champion here, Paul Murphy from Black Talon Security, and have some really interesting topics here around cybersecurity issues in regards to AI and technology in the dental space. And so I'm super excited about Paul taking some time to come onto the podcast. So Paul, thank you. I appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm honored to be here, and thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, you're welcome, man. Before we get started, I know that you guys are fairly well known in the industry. I've known about you for years and years. I've got clients that use you guys. Can you just tell me a little bit about your just quick history, how you got started, your background? Would that be cool?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. So I've been involved in dental technology for 20 plus years. Black Talon kind of came to be out of a need. Both myself, the founding partner, Gary Salmon, again, we've both been in the dental technology space for decades. And about 8 to 9 years ago, we started seeing this pattern of our clients being targeted with these ransomware attacks. And we actually started getting phone calls from people asking for help. And we didn't have an option for them. They didn't seem to have an option, period. So that kind of gave us the idea of forming a company like Black Talon. The problem was we were not security experts. We were technology experts. We found a group of guys who've spent their entire careers in the cybersecurity space, Wall Street, Johnson & Johnson, the military, et cetera. And we combined their expertise with ours, which is a background in dental technology, into forming Black Talon. So that's kind of how we came to be. We are primarily dental focused. So we do support some medical organizations, law firms, financial institutions, et cetera. But 80+% of our clients are part of the dental community. Our small.
How did you land in dental? Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off. How did you land in dental?
This takes me back now 25 years at least. I was actually a co-owner at a young age of a restaurant, and I was kind of getting burned out in that industry. I was kind of a tech geek, all right? It was more of a hobby of mine. And a friend of mine at the time was working for a practice management software company and was very passionate, about their job, loved this company they were working for. I was looking to make a change. And so I was brought into this organization by a friend, and that was my introduction to the dental community and dental tech. So I started with practice management and then imaging.
What PMS company did he work with?
So at the time, it was a company called PracticeWorks, which now I think
I remember. Yeah,
is CareStream. So it was PracticeWorks, it was OPMS, it was SoftDent, it was OrthoTrack, it was WinOMS for the OMS side, and then imaging, 2D first and then 3D eventually.
That's cool. Yeah. You guys plan on staying in dental?
Yeah. That's what we know. It's what we're good at. So it's unique, right? I mean, coming up with a solution, right, that could fit a dental practice was a challenge for us. We know that dental networks are very tricky. I like to say that they're held together by Band-Aids and dental floss. Us coming up with a solution that we could implement that would not affect day-to-day operations and, implementations between like practice management and imaging was a challenge, but it's now kind of one of our pots of gold, right? We're able to offer or implement layers of security without having a negative effect on ops and workflow.
Got it. So let's talk about ransomware for a second.
Sure. Yeah.
So I thought that was when a hacker would basically come in, would lock your data up, and then basically ask for a ransom in order to unlock it. Is that typically how hackers are working now?
It's how they used to work. And actually, to some extent, they still are. Like when we first started Black Talon, we would get calls to assist with incident response cases. Maybe we were brought in by a law firm or an insurance company, and that was a methodology, right? So hackers were going in, encrypting data, holding it for ransom. In most cases, if you paid that ransom, they would supply you or us with a decryption key, right, to unlock that data.
Okay.
The problem with that is they oftentimes they can get to an organization's backup solution, right, and completely delete it, right, so you wouldn't have that crush. But they weren't always successful in doing that, which sometimes people could take a stand, pound their chest a little bit, say, I will not be taken advantage of. I'm not going to pay criminals to get my own data back.
Yeah.
And so that led to what I call the evolution of ransomware. So it's a different game today.
Is this usually done at a practice level, or hackers going in and they're just hacking an entire PMS system?
Typically
like
at the practice
company.
level. Yeah, typically
At
the
the pra-
practice
is it-
level. We have seen cases where a cloud-based EMR or practice management software company has been breached, or cloud-based backup companies. There's one very famous one. But no, in most cases, it's at the practice level for sure.
All right. So if they're not crawling in, getting into the data, capturing it and locking it up and encrypting it, and then asking for a ransom to uncrypt it, what are most hackers doing now?
So I'll say 100% of healthcare cases, they are still encrypting data, but the criminals got smart and they figured out how to siphon off and steal data. So where we are today is, I like to call it ransomware, 3.0. It's a double and triple extortion methodology that they're using. So they're getting in, they're siphoning off and stealing data. They are still encrypting data, which may or may not be going away, because once they figured out how to steal it, they really don't have to go through the encryption process anymore. And that changed the game completely, because now if you were a practice and you were hit with a newer ransomware variant and your data was stolen, you're paying that ransom, yes, to have your data, decrypted or unlocked, but you're also paying to have your patient information removed from an auction site. And every hacking group out there has their own auction site on the dark web where they will go to publish and sell data if ransom's not paid.
Okay, so if I'm a hacker, I go into your practice, I get your data, I encrypt it, rather than me calling you and saying, hey, give me $50,000 and I'll give you your data back. Here, I'll give you the encryption key to unlock the data. They're not even doing that because that's too much of a fight, I guess. They're just going out of the dark web and auctioning it?
So not yet. So typically what they'll do is they'll go in and they'll steal the data, right, before they actually pull the trigger on the ransomware that essentially locks the system and encrypts the data. They'll usually go ahead and publish about anywhere from 1% to 3% of the data they've stolen from a practice before they even launch ransomware. Then they'll lock the data, and then they will provide you with proof of life, right, that they have your data, because they'll show you.
I got your data. Here's some of it. Okay.
Yep. And it's published. It's sitting on an auction site somewhere, and they will start the clock, right? So they'll say, Dr. Adrian, you have 72 hours to pay us X amount of dollars in Bitcoin. And if you don't, we are going to sell your patient data. If you don't want to pay us, we may actually contact your data directly. We have all the contact information, and we have no problem contacting them and saying, your data was compromised. We stole it from Dr. Adrian's office because he didn't care about security and he doesn't want to pay us. So if you don't want us to sell your information, you pay us. It's just another tactic, that they're using.
Okay.
So, a messy one.
So basically, by threatening the practice to go directly to the database, well, that creates a bigger problem, because then it's out. Then the practice isn't dealing with just a ransom cost. They're dealing with a lawsuit potentially, because the patients would then say, you've stolen my data, or you lost my data.
Yeah.
And what are they? How are attorneys getting involved in this process? Because I would imagine this is a feeding frenzy for attorneys to come in and make some money on this process. Is that happening?
Yeah, you're 100% right, Adrian, 100% right. So unfortunately, this theft of data and the publishing of data has led to class action lawsuits, right? And so what's happened is some of these class action groups have actually gotten access to some of these auction sites. I have access. As a company, we have access. Not quite sure how they've gotten access, but they have. Sometimes these class action groups are aware that a practice has been hit before the practice is aware. Now, since these cyber breaches started, these class action groups have been trying to bring these cases, but they were unsuccessful, right, before the theft of data occurred, because they had no way to prove that harm was actually done. It could only be assumed. Now that criminals are stealing and publishing data, that was the removal of that barrier to entry that the class action groups needed to start bringing cases. I don't want to say it's 100%, but in almost 100% of cases, it's a class action now.
Okay, so basically, the hackers are leveraging the threat of a lawsuit or bringing attorneys in. I mean, the attorneys getting involved is actually a benefit for creating more leverage from the hacker's perspective, right? So if I'm saying this right, they steal the data, they go onto the dark web, they publish some of a proof of concept or a proof that I have the data. Here's 3% of the data. Here's the rest of it. And the attorneys or the law firms actually are monitoring the dark web, looking for opportunities. And then they're basically coming in. Some of them are. Okay, not all of them. I would imagine that this is kind of a really sketchy thing to do. But then the attorneys, what do the attorneys do when they see it? Do they call the practice?
No,
and say, hey, your data's been... Say that again?
They'll start advertising like with local media. So let's just say you're Dr. Adrian and you have a practice in Salt Lake City, Utah. And I'm a class action group and I become aware that your practice was targeted by cyber criminals and data was stolen. First thing I'm going to do is start advertising in local media. Hey, were you a patient at Dr. Adrian's office at General Dental of Utah? If so, your data was likely compromised in a breach. Reach out to Snake and Shark and
and then they sue the practice.
100%.
That is so freaking nasty, man. Holy cow.
It's beyond. Now, you're talking about healthcare providers who are victims of criminals, right? Who've been targeted by these sophisticated criminal hacking groups. You're the victim of a crime, right? And now you're being painted as a potential criminal or someone who has some responsibility by these class action groups, right? We know they're opportunists. Class action groups are going to do what they do.
What's the conversation between the practice and a class action lawsuit group? What's that conversation look like? The doctor then sees the ads, losing his or her mind, right? Calls the law firm. What happens there?
They don't. They should never do that. So they should contact their own attorneys and have their attorneys contact.
Have their attorneys talk to their attorneys. Yeah,
100%.
Okay.
The worst part.
So sketchy.
It is sketchy. In the beginning, it was mainly limited to larger organizations, big hospital groups, DSOs, but that didn't last too long, right? Because again, these class action groups are opportunists, right? And there's plenty of cases out there that you can go and Google, for yourself and check them out where it's single practice, single doc, 10 computers, right? Hit by cyber criminals and closed for a couple of weeks and then hit with a class action lawsuit, on top of that. So it's a horrible situation, and there's not enough safe harbor laws for healthcare providers right now around these data breaches, and there really needs to be, because
what would be a safe harbor law that should be implemented? Give me an example.
So I've been doing some reading lately, and I think to me, it seems like Tennessee seems to be kind of leading the charge here, where they're trying to implement some safe harbor rules and laws around the protection of healthcare providers, right? Who again are the victims of cyber criminals. Harbor law is kind of protecting them from litigation, protecting them from these class action lawsuits, right? If they were not negligent and they were targeted by sophisticated crooks, how are they all of a sudden liable, right? So those are the types of safe harbor laws that I'm starting to hear some rumblings about, but it's moving too slowly, in all honesty. Yeah.
And this is so, I mean, you've been monitoring these class action lawsuits for years, I would imagine, since you guys have been in business.
Yeah.
How do you do that? Like, what are you looking at and to kind of be on the up and up of like when something's happened? Are you guys monitoring the web, the dark web, and is there the class action suit website or something like that?
Yeah, actually both. As a cyber company, we do have access to a lot of these sites, so we know the organizations who've been targeted by criminals because we see their data, right? That's something published, and then just I'll keep tabs, I'll keep track, right, to see how long it takes until a class action suit, right, is brought against them. But there are sites out there like classaction.org is one, and classaction.org is a public site. It's for the general public. There's actually a tab at the top of that site specific for just data breaches. Or you can go in and search dental, and you can see a list of
okay. That's classaction.org?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not for the faint of heart. So Yeah, it's
Yeah. And you said it's not happening to big organizations. It's happening at practice level. You're seeing a lot of this at just a single location level, not just big DSOs or something like that.
yeah. In the beginning, it was mostly DSOs and dental, but now it's trickled down, right? So now it's private practice providers. They don't care. They don't care how big your organization is.
I'm curious, and maybe you don't know the answer to this, but if somebody hacks a dental practice data, just a single location, let's say they've got, it's an average practice, maybe they do $1.5 million a year, decent size, not huge, not too small. What are these hackers asking for in terms of payment? Is it $1,000, $100,000, more?
It's definitely not
Like,
1,000.
what do you
It's a
need?
wide range, right? It depends on who the criminal hacking group is. They're not all the same, right? So it depends
Right.
on who the hacking group is. Sometimes it can depend on the size of the database that they've been able to steal. Sometimes it depends on what they had access to, right? So think about, and I've seen this personally.
Okay.
Think about if you are a dental practice and on your network, you have a copy of your cyber insurance policy. And maybe you have statements from your operating bank account, right? And I'm a criminal and I have access to your network. And I'm like, oh, look, Dr. Adrian has $1 million in cyber insurance coverage and he has 125,000 in his operating account. My ransom demand is going to be 1.125 million.
Yeah, all the money.
I know you
He's
have
got
that.
it.
You can't lie to me
Yeah.
and say, well, I don't have it. I know you do. But typically we've seen that happen, but mostly it's dependent upon who the group is, the size of your patient database. That's typically, they don't know if you're a general dentist or an oral and maxillofacial surgeon. They have no clue. Ransom demands could be higher for an OMS practice simply because OMS databases are tremendous, right? They're huge.
Yeah.
So that's what typically will drive ransoms higher. But no, you're looking at it right now today, I say it's a minimum of 100,000.
Gee, it's
Like minimum.
Christmas.
Yeah.
It's
And that's not the
insane.
expensive part. For most practices, that's not the expensive part. Not the most expensive part. Of course, it's costly, but you're going to be closed
Well, it's
no matter what.
Yeah,
For
you're
a
gonna be
minimum
shut
of
down.
10
You're-
days.
yeah. So then
Take-
all of a
take
sudden
your
now
daily
you don't.
production.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and your attorney's fees, and if you get your attorneys involved, and there's attorneys talking to the class action lawsuit attorneys that are scanning the dark web and looking for opportunities,
Yeah.
I mean that could be it's nasty. It could put a practice out of business, I would imagine.
It has.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it has. But you have,
Yeah.
you have the loss of business continuity. You have the ransom. You have patient notification fees, right? And obviously that's happening now with effective
Yeah.
data in most cases. You have to replace most of your computers now because the attacks
Yeah.
are so devastating. At least swap out all your hard drives, but typically replace
Yeah.
the computer. You have to pay a company to come in and do a forensics investigation, right? Which is not something an IT company could do. It's a long list of nightmarish things that go
So
along with the breach.
So here's what I mean. I don't understand anything about hacking. I mean, I know what it is, but I don't know how it works. Like, how are these hackers getting in? What are they doing to get in? Now there's probably a lot of different ways, but how are they doing that? Can you talk about that or give us some kind of a description of what's going on, where the breach is usually happening?
So there's a myriad of different ways, but it's primarily two. All right. Number one is social engineering. It's criminals who've gotten to be very good at being able to target their victims and socially engineer them. So it's targeting you as a practice owner, it's targeting your team members, right? If you think about the early versions of this, for those of us who are old enough and who've been using email since the 90s, the original version of this was the Nigerian prince, right? Looking for help.
Yeah.
Transfer money
Oh,
into the US,
yeah.
right? They've gotten much better. So number one way is social engineering. Okay. It's not as high as some companies that sell things like secure email and cyber training would lead you to believe, because I've seen marketing from these companies and it's 99%. It's not true. There's no data to back that up. The actual data that comes from the insurance industry, from companies who do forensics investigations, puts that number at somewhere between 60 and 65%. So 60 to 65% of these breaches are the result of a human being socially engineered.
So
The other way
they're
that
acting on, they're downloading something, they're clicking on a link somewhere in a text
100%.
or in an email Okay, gotcha. So they're just
They could
making
be
a
posing
mistake.
as an office that you refer to, or vice versa. They could be posing as
Okay.
someone from Shine. They could be posing as a patient. There's a number of different things that they can do. They are now
Okay.
using AI in their efforts, right, to target people with social engineering, right? They could be sitting somewhere in, we'll say, Eastern Europe and launch ChatGPT. How do I have a conversation with orthodontic practice? What terminology should I use, right? If I'm a
Yeah.
referral of refers to an orthodontic practice, what would my messaging be? So they are using AI in their efforts. Now, the other way that they're gaining access is through the exploitation of technical vulnerabilities. And these are the open
Okay.
doors and windows that exist on every network. They're on firewalls. They're on workstations and servers. You could have a vulnerability on a smart TV that you have in the waiting room for your patients, smart thermostat, an all-in-one printer. But these are the open doors and windows that hackers will target in order to gain access to a network and also to be able to move laterally across the network to get wherever it is that they want to get to.
Okay.
Those are the two ways, honestly. That's 99%
The big
of
two
the
ways.
attack.
I got an email this morning, and I get this bullshit all the time. I got an email this morning from Nifty, which is I think it's I don't even know what it is. It was a nifty.com email. It came in, it says, hey, your policy has been updated. Click here to download your documents. So I look at the email address where it's come from. It's sent to me, Adrian at My Social Practice, but the sending email is mysocialpractice@nifty.com.
Right.
So they actually created an email address that had my company's name in it to try and trick me into thinking that because the email had my name in it, that I should probably download it. But it's like super tricky stuff like that. And I get invoice like, oh, to download your invoice, click here. And I'm looking at the email address and I'm like, I don't know who the hell this person is. I get it all the time. It's crazy.
Yeah, I do too, right? So that's an issue right now. Anything that has to do with wire transfers is an issue right now. Dropbox, emails that look at coming from Dropbox is an issue right now. Anything related to a payroll company. I would never even open an email from it. Even if I'm using a payroll company, I'm in HR, I'm not opening any email. I'm calling my payroll company.
Yeah.
They're all big issues right now. The biggest issue now is you have some groups who really focus on business email compromise. There's a notorious group out there called Scattered Spider, and they are actually getting into people's email systems. So your emails being sent to you are coming from that source, from that trusted
source, but they've got a bad link in there.
Yeah, but it is their email account. But 100%.
So they're hijacking an email account, sending emails to connected, people or whatever.
Yeah.
And then, but whatever's in there, the download link or whatever is the hack, I guess. Right. It's 100%. What do you call that? The virus or whatever you want.
The payload or the malware or 100%. So the malicious code. That's really what ransomware is. Malicious code. That's what it is.
Got it.
Yeah. It's
all right. No. Okay. So what I was going to say is it sounds to me like there's kind of, if those are the two main ways, one is would you call it social engineering?
Correct. Yes.
Social engineering. So they're manipulating the relationship. They're manipulating the individual. And then the other one is just brute hacking. They find a hole somewhere. Like, how do you guys come in and help? Because part of that is like just educating the team. Don't download this kind of stuff. You have to be aware of it. So it's just like a training. And then some of it is probably I'm sure you're building firewalls or whatever it is. So how do you approach a practice that has been hacked or is concerned about being hacked? What do you do?
It's layers, right? We don't guess, by the way. And maybe I should have mentioned this early on. But while our focus as a company is prevention, we are a full incident response company. And we have been involved in hundreds of ransomware cases involving dental practices over the past 8 years. We've never had to do a full-blown ransomware response for one of our clients, knock on wood. It'll probably happen one day. But the reason I'm even mentioning that is we don't guess, right? If you're not involved in incident response, you don't know how to protect the practice. And that's the bottom line, right? You can't, and this is the big challenge within dental, right? If you're a dental practice and you have a great IT provider, they are worth a weight in gold. There's no question. Like, we can't do what we do without working with IT resources. But what they're not are cybersecurity experts. They're not. And I know a high percentage of them will say, oh, we have you covered. No, they don't. you can't dabble in this, right? You can't spend 75% of your time, setting up and, working help desk and maintaining networks and dabble in security and be able to keep up with this threat. We do have some solutions, right, that can significantly reduce the likelihood that someone will be hit. And to your point, it starts with training, right? So we built our own cloud-based training academy that's specific to dental, right? So we're using training examples of things that dental team members deal with on a daily basis. And we did that by design.
Okay.
We did it because we want to keep people's interest, right? Instead of having an hour and a half long training session, we broke ours into little mini modules because we know that people's attention spans have gone away, right? It's also how we're going to keep their attention. So we teach them everything they should be looking for before trusting any type of communication, right? Text message, phone calls, email, etc. And then on an ongoing basis, we're phishing them. You have to do that.
What do you mean?
It's a muscle memory type thing. So
you're phishing them. What do you mean?
So we're sending simulated phishing emails into
you're like doing white hacking kind of stuff.
Yeah, with humans, testing their resiliency.
Ethical hacking.
Right? 100%.
Just to see if they're behaving properly. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yep. And they know.
That's really cool.
So if one of our clients' team members clicks on one of our phishing emails, they know instantly they did it because a video pops up that tells them what they did wrong, how they can make
here's what you did wrong. Oh, that's super cool.
Yeah, you have to do it. It's anything else. If you want to get really good at something, you need some type of muscle memory exercise, and that's essentially.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So go ahead. Sorry,
I was going to say the other way is, we deploy a very lightweight tool, extremely lightweight, whose job it is 6 times a day to scan the entire network within a practice and look for those open doors and windows that hackers will target and exploit. We identify them, and now we have the ability to go ahead and close and lock about 70% of what we find. The rest, we're sharing that data with IT, for them to remediate.
So you work in tandem with the IT company. You're not an IT company. You're a cybersecurity company. Okay.
Correct.
But you do like to work pretty tightly with an IT company because I imagine that's like almost vital.
We have to, 100%, right? We know we're not going to have a successful engagement unless there's an IT resource involved. We insist that our clients have an IT resource in place. There's definitely still some lift on their part. We just make it easier. Yeah. And we know that, there are practice owners who are like, oh, I'm technical, I do my IT, but this is another level.
Yeah.
We don't replace IT, right? We work with them, but if they're the general dentist, we are the oral and maxillofacial surgeon, right? Because this type of level of security.
And you've got I imagine you have a handful of IT companies you prefer to work with that work well with you.
Yeah, we have a long list.
Recommend okay. All right, cool. Yeah. I want to go back to the incident response process. Is that like when somebody a doctor has been hacked, their data shows up on the dark web.
Yeah.
You find it. What's the incident response? Like, what are you doing?
So we don't, even when we see someone's data, that would be like ambulance chasing, right? We're not going to call a practice and be like, hey, guess what? We can help you. You were hacked. No, we get pulled in sometimes by insurance companies who we work with, by law firms who we've handled a lot of cases with. Organizations like the O or AMIS or the ADA sometimes will refer us if their members call them looking for guidance if they were hit. And so what happens is if we get engaged, there's always a ransom note, number one. So the first thing that we do is we will run what's called an OLFAC check against the digital wallet that the client wants the crypto to be transferred to. And we have to do that to make sure that it's legal for the doctor to transfer money, to this wallet. We've had cases where we've scanned a wallet and the group was tied to a nation state, Iran, North Korea, etc. And then that's a bad day, right? Because it's not legal to transfer money to a nation state. We've had situations where we've scanned a wallet and it's been tied to an organization that has ties to terrorist groups, right? You can't transfer crypto there. So that's step one. Step two, we're going to pose as a target. We're going to pose as a victim, and we're going to begin the negotiation process with the criminals. Part of that is asking for proof of life up front, if they didn't just supply it on their own. We're already at that point beginning the forensics investigation work. And the forensics is to determine what was the access point, what did they access, what did they steal, exactly. The only person that should ever decide whether something's a reportable offense to OCR, HHS, is a HIPAA attorney. So we share our forensics data and the results of our forensics investigation with a HIPAA attorney to help them determine whether or not something's a reportable offense. We will,
Got it.
if data has been encrypted, which it typically is, we will get the decryption key from the hackers and work on data decryption. We'll assist IT with getting the organization back up and operational, as soon as possible. It's a long process. It's all a long process. And that's essentially what an incident response is.
Sounds like you're a hostage negotiator, basically.
Yeah, and sometimes shrink, right? I mean, these are devastating attacks. They are invasive. We've had situations where we've had to tell a doctor, look, these criminals deploy screen sharing software and they've been on your network for weeks looking over your shoulder. And then, while being shut down is a terrible thing, if you're a dentist and all of a sudden you realize someone's literally been looking over your shoulder, watching every chart note that you've entered for 2 weeks, it's incredibly invasive. And people sometimes have levels of PTSD associated with these attacks. I've had those conversations with healthcare providers saying, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, it's their whole life. It's their whole life. Yeah,
and you just gotta
their whole life
talk
just
them
disappearing.
100%. Yeah, but you recover. It's
Wow.
an expensive lesson. It's a horrible position to be in, but you do recover.
I think I have, for my social practice, we have cybersecurity insurance, I think.
Yeah.
I should probably go check.
Yeah.
And I would imagine that you would recommend every doctor to have some kind of cybersecurity insurance. But I guess to take away from that, I mean, I'm officially like paranoid, right? And everybody listening to this is probably a little bit paranoid. Like, what are 3 things that a doctor should ask themselves to be the initial 3 questions that are like, okay, have I got all my ducks in a row? What are those 3 questions they should ask themselves?
Do I have cyber insurance, or am I relying on like business interruption that I may have as part of my policy? And if the answer is you don't know, you better find out. I would not consider practicing without a cyber policy, specifically a cyber policy.
There's an insurance policy that would cover the days they're shut down and the revenue they would have generated on those days. Is that what you mean?
No, not always. Some people assume that if they have any type of business interruption policy or coverage, that's going to cover them for a cyber event. And what I'm saying is it rarely does.
Oh, it rarely does. Gotcha.
Yeah,
okay.
You need to look into getting, and my company does not sell insurance. We're not in that game, but I would look into getting a cyber policy specifically.
Okay.
If you think about the things that practice owners insure themselves from now, like malpractice, right? Fire, flood, maybe a sexual harassment case, you're far more likely to be hit with a cyber attack in 2025 than any of those things, right? It's just a reality.
Okay.
100% of healthcare providers are going to be targeted by cyber criminals. Not maybe. It's not if, it's a question of when.
This is when.
Yeah, I would definitely look into that. Ask your IT resource. And they're going to say, most likely, I got you covered. Ask for proof. There's too much at risk to make that assumption. And as scientists, which all dental professionals are scientists, almost every decision they make is data-driven, right? That's what scientists do, except for when it comes to something like this. They make they make a decision based on feelings, right? Don't do that.
Yeah.
If someone tells you you're covered, ask for specifics, right? I just shared with this group, 45% of all cyber attacks are the result of criminals targeting technical vulnerabilities. Ask for reports from your IT provider. How often is it being done? Well, let me see what the remediation looks like. Show me reports, right? Ask for proof, ask for data. Don't assume you're protected.
Okay.
Have I empowered my team to be able to protect me, to make good decisions? Have you trained them in cybersecurity awareness? If not, how do you hold them accountable? If you haven't empowered people to be able to make good decisions or empower them to be able to protect you as a business owner, right, how would you hold someone accountable? Right. I mean, you have to empower your team, right? 100%. So I would start.
Okay.
Train. Yeah. I would start there as my top 3 without question.
Well, wait, that's just 2. Cybersecurity insurance, train.
IT is telling you that you're protected. That we got your back.
IT.
Ask for
check
proof.
your IT company. Okay.
Yeah.
Cybersecurity
Ask for
insurance,
vulnerability
check
reports.
with your IT, ask for vulnerability reports, get some data there, and train your team.
Yeah.
And do you guys have a blog on your website?
We do.
Do you have
we do.
documents that people could read or articles and stuff like that?
A lot of articles, a lot of podcasts and case studies. So we have a combination of different stuff. So yeah, absolutely. We do.
Okay, cool. then obviously, I mean, you'd be happy to do a consultation if anybody's really interested. But I would.
Yeah.
So your website's blacktalonsecurity.com, correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Black Talon, like a
Security.com.
Security.com. How'd you come up with that name, Black Talon?
I
Just
did not.
mean?
Our CEO and founder did. So it's
He must
his
like
brainchild.
birds.
It was his baby. Yeah. It has.
It's a nice visual. It's
Yeah.
not a bunny rabbit, a nice fluffy bunny rabbit that's just hopping around in the forest. It's the hawk that's going to catch the bunny rabbit.
That's right. I love. You know what? That's my new answer for the next time someone asks me that question. That's my new answer. I like yours.
Yeah, we're out on this. We're searching for criminals. It's
That's right.
the hawk that catches the mink that's stealing your chickens. That's
right.
what you're doing. You're catching that.
100%. Yeah, that's right. Yes. Yeah.
All right. Well, I will put links to your stuff. I'll find your consultation form on your site. I'll put them in the description. Paul, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. I mean, we could probably go into a lot more stuff. Matter of fact, we'll have you back on for another episode soon.
Cool.
But thank you so much for coming on. Any last words?
Thank you for having me. It's been an honor. I've enjoyed the conversation, and I mean, I'm more than happy to come on anytime you'd like. I have a lot of war stories I can share with you, and
all right,
it's an interesting field for sure. But thank you.
All right, yeah, you're welcome. Take care, man.
You too.
Thanks for listening to Bite Size Podcast. Tune in to stay up to date with everything dental AI and tech